Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas Cousins here from Wakely Properties in Paddington. The title of this video is An Offer You Can't Refuse, and what I'm going to be talking about is, as a buyer, how to actually make an offer. So you'll see a lot of different advertising online for expressions of interest, tender, auction, for sale now, with a price, without a price. There's a lot of different things out there, but what's important is how you actually go about making the offer. So let's say that you've already established that you like the property, you've done a little bit of research into it, you know roughly that you're in the right ballpark for it, and you want to make your offer to purchase as strong as you possibly can. So what's vital is that you actually make a formal offer, so via contract document. An expression of interest or sending a text message or an email saying we'd like to offer this is in no way binding. It's not really worth the paper that it's not printed on, so to speak. So there's a few parts to the offer that you need to be aware of, how they work and how to best structure them to make it as strong as you possibly can. So the first thing is, obviously, it's going to be the price, right? So that's the most important part. There are a lot of important parts, and every little piece of it can mean something different to a different seller. So you can work on a few different pieces of the offer, right? So the price is important. So you put your price, your offer price, whatever that might look like. Let's say, for the sake of this, that we're talking about $1 million, right? So the offer price is $1 million. Then now we're going to be talking about deposit. Deposit is very different to what you might be thinking. So the deposit that you've got for your home loan versus the deposit that you put on the property are two different things, right? So that's sometimes I have people that are a little bit confused about that. So the deposit, when it comes to an offer, refers to essentially a holding deposit, right? Now in Queensland, while there's really no actual benefit to the owner to be holding a significant deposit by way of getting early access to it or anything like that, it all gets distributed on settlement. It does show sincerity in your offer, right? So what you'd normally see is generally around a 5% deposit on the offer price or the proposed sale price, right? So as the standard contract law, you can only be holding up to 10%. Anything over 10%, it becomes a different type of contract. So let's assume that we're going with a 5% deposit, right? So on $1 million, we're talking about $50,000. Now, you can break that down. That can be $50,000 upon signing the contract. It could be $50,000 within 3 business days. It could be $10,000 within 3 business days and $40,000 on unconditional date, right? So it doesn't really matter. It's all going to be determined by your financial position, what you can afford to put in and have held there, and what you can put in at a later date. So the stronger the deposit or the larger the deposit, within the 10% of course, is going to be beneficial because it does show sincerity in the offer, right? So moving on from that, now we're down to the finance clause, right? So most banks are going to be talking about you needing 21 days, right, for your finance. Banks generally, within reason, can work within the timeframes that you give them, especially if you've got a broker. The broker is going to be wanting to get paid by their bank too, right? So they're going to be pushing to get that through as quick as they possibly can. So you can have 10, 12, 14 days for your finance. Even if your bank says 21, you can bring that closer. Remember, the cleaner the offer, the shorter the conditions, the more palatable it is to the owner, especially if your price may not be quite what they were hoping for. The shorter your conditions are going to make it more pleasing for them, right? So finance clause would be, so say it's 14 days from contract date. The shorter the better. Right, now what that is the bank is going to do a valuation on the property, most likely, and they're going to determine whether the offer that you've put forward is in fact in line with the value of the property. If it's not, if the value is significantly lower than your offer price, then they're going to tell you that they can only lend you a certain amount on that property. Now moving down to the building and pest clause. So generally what you'll be able to do is have that done within 7 days of the contract date. And what that's really doing is you're getting a building and pest inspector in, licensed building and pest inspector, and they're going to have a really good look around the property for signs of pests, so termites, white ants, for example. Anything structural that you might need to know about, so some stumps that might need replacing, anything there where there's significant cracking, retaining walls, stuff like that. They're going to make sure that everything's working, air conditioners, that kind of stuff. So it's really important to get your building and pest inspector through. What is important here is that there is no such thing as a pass or fail on a building and pest inspection. What it is subject to your satisfaction as the buyer. So You have a look at the report. I suggest strongly that you attend the building and pest inspection report or the inspection I should say, because what's in the report versus what gets said to you, not that it's different, it's just much more complicated when it's written. So the building and pest inspectors have to cover themselves from a legal standpoint. So they're making sure that everything is written in there, even if, for example, it might be no signs of active termites, recommend invasive search in the wall cavity, right? So while they've done their test and you're stood there with them and they've said, look, there's no signs of termites there, there's nothing to worry about, for them to cover themselves in their report, it's going to be much more scary than that, right? So I suggest being there. You get the report. If you're not satisfied with that report, you have options. Your options can be, if it's insurmountable, then you can terminate the contract without penalty, right? If there's things in there that can be fixed that you weren't aware of, then you can suggest that perhaps the owner might attend to those before settlement, or you can negotiate an amount that you think is going to cover that when you are purchasing. Now, it's not a game. Don't be using building and pest inspection reports as part of a negotiation tactic that you had from the beginning. So you offer $1 million knowing that there's probably going to be bits and pieces wrong and you only wanted to pay $950, and then start talking about $950 after that. I see that kind of stuff. It doesn't pan out well. So that's the building and pest clause. It's to your satisfaction. So the pass and fail is essentially whether you're satisfied with the report or not. Right, special conditions, again, coming back to the cleaner the contract, the better. So sometimes you'll see that, and it's necessary on occasions, is to have a subject to sale clause on there if you need to sell your property as part of the purchase, right? So, but I am seeing a lot of due diligence clauses that'll show up in a contract that's just on a standard residential contract, right? It's unnecessary. Your finance and your building and pest are your due diligence. That's your opportunity to find out anything that you think might be wrong with the property or that you weren't aware of. Having a due diligence clause on there is just going to make your your offer less appealing to the owner. If you were dealing with a block of land or a development site and there was some level of due diligence required around council restrictions on building or permits, etc., different story. But for a standard residential property, no need for a due diligence clause generally. Now settlement, again, the sooner the better in most cases. Sometimes the owner needs some time to move out and they'd appreciate a slightly longer settlement. Find that out from the agent before you're making your offer. What's going to be the best possible settlement for the owner? And again, everything that you can possibly do to make your offer that little bit more appealing gives you a better chance of securing the property. Especially if maybe, like I said earlier, the price might not be quite what the owner was hoping for. If you can have a really tight, clean contract with settlement times to suit the owner, then it might just get across the line anyway. So I suppose what I'm saying is just work out with the agent what is going to be the most suitable offer that you can make from a conditions point of view. Do your research, get the price on there. Sometimes there'll be an opportunity for you to negotiate. If there's multiple offers, you should have a multiple offer form showing you that there is another offer, at least one. You might only get one opportunity to put the best foot forward, but in most cases, you're going to be able to have an opportunity to negotiate. So that's how you make an offer. I'd love to help you with that. If you need any help, I can help you with a report on the property you're looking at buying. I can help you by running through how to structure a really good clean offer. And I've also got access to an absolute ton of special conditions should you need those. So get in touch if I can help you out with anything. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great weekend.